Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sipinski. We are celebrating 73 years of independent Jewish state today, Yom Ha'atzmaut. It is the biggest day of the year, the biggest night of the year. Yesterday, a very sad, a very solemn day. The siren goes off in the morning. We all stand for a moment of silence. Now, this is so different here. You know, when you're a child, you have a ceremony all through school, all through your school years. And the siren is shared. Everyone, the entire school, stands up together. And there's a stage, and it's all like, it feels like it's only being done at the school, when really it's happening all over the country. So when you're driving in your car down the highway, the siren goes off, you pull over to the side of the road, you get out of your car and you stand. When you're in work, you stop what you're doing, you stand. When you're in the supermarket, you stop what you're doing and you stand quietly. Everywhere, walking down the street. I was with my children at a ceremony last year, and it was the first time I had been at a school, and I realized these children grow up with this siren and they're always at a ceremony. So when they go out into the world and they're no longer in school, it's the first time they experience, and they're like, programmed soldiers, our children. They hear that siren and they stand up at attention. They stop what they're doing because that's how they've been trained. And they also have these really amazing skits that they do, acting out battles and acting out famous, times of struggle and battle through our history, through our short 73-year history. And these kids grow up knowing that. And it's something very tangible, very close. And, Israel being here is an amazing place to be. And when you look outside, I was trying to find some information to share with you, some articles about Israel's accomplishments in the world, amazing facts and things like that. And it's funny. Israel's the only country in the world, for instance, that has more trees today than it had 50 years ago. And Israel has more museums per capita than any other country. And voicemail technology was developed here. The IDF is a leader in saving people trapped by natural and man-made disasters. The list goes on and on. Wow, being here and being surrounded by all this ingenuity and all this history at the same time is overpowering. It's overwhelming. And I'm so glad I'm here. And all of you who want to come here and be part of the Jewish nation, come. There is no reason not to. Come.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sipinski. Joining us today is a former lone soldier who has become an anchorman. He's made Aliyah, David Matlin. He's joining us today on this special Yom Ha'atzmaut, 73 years in Israel. David, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Appreciate being here.
David, I know there are dozens of you who came to Israel as a lone soldier. I don't know what your intent was back then. So why don't you tell us your story? Because there are so many that do come and leave.
Well, I can verify there are certainly many more of us than me, but I'm happy and honored to represent that aspect or that part of the lone soldier community, the ones who have stuck around. What brought me originally was just an interest in this place. It was during a time period where Israel was unfortunately in the news on a daily basis at the Second Intifada and around the turn of the century, and it was all for the wrong reasons. Israel making nightly headlines everywhere, and it got my attention in a way that I couldn't turn away, and decided to come here during that time. In 2001, I arrived in Israel, and it was an eye-opening experience to arrive in the midst of what was really a war going on at that time. But
Right.
I loved what I found. And I can explain, certainly not the situation that the country was facing, but the nation itself that I discovered in that moment was an incredibly inspiring one. It
All right,
was,
David, slow down a minute. When you're talking about 2001, now, when you came here, did you come here as a lone soldier?
no, I came here just as a college student to sort of explore the country, see what I thought. I'd went to Hebrew University. It was my junior year, sort of abroad, and it was that time period. And it was at that age where I was the age of Army service. I was 20 years old, and that part of the reality, seeing what soldiers were going through here at the time, and being that age, it got my wheels turning on that direction. And I decided at that point that I wanted to stick around, make Aliyah, and go to the Army as fast as possible in a rational way. I was in the middle of college at that point. So I ended up finishing my college studies. I went back to wrap it up at the University of Arizona, where I was, and committed throughout all that time, not easily, I should mention, but stuck to this path to come back upon graduation. It was 2004, and I made Aliyah formally at that point with a program called Garin Sabar, which I'm happy to plug and support here. They provided a wonderful support net and just helped us get in, plain and simple. And by 2004, by the end of 2004, I was a lone soldier in the Army.
All right.
At the age of 24.
Okay. So you were not, you didn't come here to be a soldier. You came here anyway, and you became a soldier once you were here. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I came to sort of sample the country, liked what I found, and then came back making Aliyah to join the Army. Yes.
Okay.
So it was a determined approach there to become a citizen and go in as a lone soldier. So my Aliyah and my draft into the IDF went hand in hand. It was that was what I came to do at that point. And at that point, I should say, I hadn't closed that door behind me that, I would never go back to the life I'd been building in the U.S. I was on the path to go into the fire department in Phoenix, Arizona, which had taken a lot of years to build up. And so I always kept that door open behind me, and wasn't sure if I would go back after an Army service. So as it turned out, I stuck around. But at the time, that wasn't the hard and fast decision that, I'm going forever to Israel. It was one thing after another that's kept me here, that I've loved what I've found.
Right. And that's what I tell people to do. You don't need to plan everything. Just come and take it one step at a time. That's pretty much what you did as a youngster, and it's the way I did it, and it's the way I advise a lot of people to do it. Because once you're here, and you can attest to this, David, it probably happened to you. Once you're here, you build.
Yes, you do, and sure, I've seen people come in, go, and it just depends on the individual's life, things going on. But I found that I really did come to feel an attachment and a natural home here in Israel. I feel at home, and there's that small town nature of the country, the whole country at large.
Right.
I love. You
right.
feel like the people you pass in the street, and it's kept me here, no doubt.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Were you raised? I mean, I'm guessing you're not a religious guy because you didn't mention anything about a yeshiva. Where did you grow up? What was your Jewish community like where you grew up? And were there other did anybody else come?
Well, I may surprise you. I did grow up in a sort of modern Orthodox household. So there was that background of it, some, religion involved, but that wasn't necessarily, and I have to admit, Israel was part of the story growing up. Certainly was something that I learned about and was spoken about around my home and synagogue, but at the same time, it wasn't pushing me in this direction. It was definitely out of the box for me to come here and make Aliyah, especially during that time, where it was just
that was a rough time. That was a rough time.
So that was against the grain in some ways, but nevertheless, with the backing of the community I came from, certainly understanding and supportive. But it was an out of the box move for me, and it was from my family. My family is all in the U.S. I had no base here, no family in Israel, some extended family, sort of friends that become family, as many of us immigrants have it, but no direct family. It was really me setting out on my own.
All right. So good. An adventure. I like it. So tell me what happened, if you can, after the Army. How did you build a life for yourself here. You're pretty successful. You're an anchorman on I-24 News. You are, I guess, a bit of a celebrity. Tell me how that happened.
Well, I got increasingly interested in my years here of helping the next generation, as I look at it, the people who are also interested in this country and coming to this country. And I for many years, I was working with Taglit and Birthright. I was working with various Masa programs that sort of get people here for young people for 5 months or a year. Eventually, I became a new immigrant advisor with Nefesh B'Nefesh, and saw myself as, in a way, climbing the ladder from those 10 days to 5 months to the lifers, and just wanting to help. In other words, the people that I, saw going through what I had gone through, wanted to.
So you were the perfect ambassador.
Yeah, I mean, that's I tried to be, and just tried to not only inspire more young people to come over, but help them through it.
Yeah.
But ended up getting really interested and more immersed as time went by in Israel's international standing and international relations and perception abroad and the advocacy angle of all that. And went to school here, did my master's, and got a degree at Tel Aviv University in diplomacy and international relations, and started looking at that angle of what I could contribute. And that's at the same time this channel was opening up, I-24 News. That was a brand new concept in 2013, and they were building new studios in the port of Jaffa. It was an exciting endeavor, and as all things go in Israel, it was a friend of a friend that just to go talk to somebody. They're opening a channel, you write for it, and next thing I knew, with no background in it, I had an on-screen role in the channel as an anchor on the English channel, and that's what kind of got me into it. Was just the timing, and it turned out to be something that not only turned out I could do, but enjoy doing, and have been contributing to.
So for how many years have you been involved with the channel?
Well, I was in 2013. I was in part of the initial team that sort of swept the sawdust off the floor and came in and started the channel. And we learned how to run a news channel and live television on top of it. So very added challenges that come with that. And I was part of the initial team in there. I did take a bit of a break from the news between 2016 and 19. I was working with AIPAC, the political lobby based in the U.S., and sort of moved into the advocacy and political realm there for a chapter. But I truly missed the energy of the live television news, and I came back to it in 2019 at this right around all this election. I can't remember exactly. I think it was the second of the fourth elections we've been through.
We all lose count, David. It's not just you.
So yeah, that got me back into it, and I've been back since. It's been about a year and a half that I've been back in the anchor chair at I-24 News.
That's pretty great. That's a great story, and that's one we do hear, and it does happen. All you listeners out there, Israel is a small community. Okay, it's like I used to say, it's kind of like going to the JCC. It is small, and you do have opportunities here that you may not have in a large country like the U.S. David is an anchorman, and how did he get that job? He's telling us, a friend of a friend.
I went to check out the job. It was exactly a friend of a friend. I didn't know what it would be, but it turned out to be interesting.
Yeah, it's also a nice part of life here. The culture it's casual, and people don't get caught up in formality. You can have interviews over coffee, or coffee that turns out to be an interview, and it happens all the time. I've gotten job offers tramping. Okay, I've gotten connections in ways that I never would have expected. Things that are just mentioned on the fly turn into a significant way to connect you to people.
Sure.
It really happens, and people say you never know where your next opportunity will come, and it's so true. It's not just these formal networking opportunities, not formal networking sessions at all. It's anybody anywhere.
Absolutely.
And it's very exciting here. Things move quickly, and people are they're like electric. There's that kind of electric connection that and especially I think especially English speakers, because there just aren't that many of us.
There's not. It's authentic, I find. That's something I come to love here when people tell you, oh, sure, anytime, come by. That kind of pleasantries we're used to in many parts of the world. They mean it here in a way that is startling sometimes. It's extremely sort of honest and genuine openness between people here.
Yeah. We have guests often, students that come here, and they're taken aback by people giving them their entire house. And they're like, we get a house? I'm like, yes, these people left you their house. They're shocked. Stick around, we'll be right back with more Returning Home.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. We're continuing our talk with David Matlin from I-24 News, and we're just going to keep talking. It was pretty funny when I said to my husband, I have this newscaster. I'm not going to have to say a word. Very, very special place, and it's nice to hear the good things because, there's the other side of the coin also. I'm sure you in the news hear all kinds of bad stuff, especially from the international community.
Paint only a rosy picture certainly has challenges. I mean, this is a country that's under development. I mean, this is a young country, and it's a country full of immigrants and facing, whether it's economic challenges or just the conflict that surrounds. It's not easy, but special. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, a unique place and special, and it's what's given me the sort of energy and drive to overcome the challenges that have come up over the years. Yes, there's been challenges, but they've never been so great that it overwhelmed the sense of love and belonging that I found here. So not easy, but special and full of meaning.
Well, David, thank you for joining us. We're about out of time. Do you have any? You want to share with us where you live and how you'll be celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut tonight?
Sure. I live in Tel Aviv with my 3 kids and my wife, and I kind of became a Tel Avivi all these years. I moved to Tel Aviv in 2006, right around the end of my Army service in the regular Army. And I've loved what I found. The city, along with the country at large, has really evolved throughout the years and developed so nicely and amazingly and become family friendly. And just like the nature of it all is something I've come to identify and really feel at home with. And so I can't think of anywhere better in the world I'd rather be than just in the heart of it all in Tel Aviv, watching the air show and doing a barbecue in the park with friends and family. So, nice. So that's where I'll be, and I'm certainly looking forward to last year was canceled, so we're all looking forward to that.
Oh, we are. I am like.
It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, and it is a success of all of us as a nation getting to this point.
Yeah, Femod. Well, thank you so much. It was great to meet you and hear your story, and thank you for sharing it with our listeners. You've been an inspiration. Thank you, David. Okay, take care of yourself. And
thank you.
Bye. Well, that was very nice. Kind of a celebrity. I didn't even know this guy. I don't watch I-24 News too much, but that's a good story, and I like that. Part when he told us how he found that job, and it's so relevant. And it's so true. And I always felt like in Israel, I could do anything. And one of the reasons is because things happen here, just like they just happen, and they go forward in a very easy way. Things just kind of roll forward sometimes, and I think it's just a very social country, very friendly country, and it's just so casual, and things can happen, and you can meet people very high up, and there's nobody here stands on ceremony. I just love that. I mean, I just love it. I mean, years ago, I was working for a law firm, and the head of the firm had a cocktail party at his house. And I went and walked up the stairs, and I passed a security guard who was standing guard outside someone's door. And it was a former prime minister. And the guy I worked for lived in the same building. And this prime minister lived in a building without an elevator. I thought that was pretty remarkable. People here just, they're just normal, ordinary people. I mean, people use first names here, and the mayor, he introduces himself by his first name. He wears Crocs. He buys milk at the store. It's just very it's neat. It's neat, and it's one of the best parts about being here, and kind of puts everyone kind of like on an equal footing. People are simple. Like, people don't wear a jacket and tie. That just you don't see that here. People just wear shirts, button down, white shirts, open at the collar, on Shabbat with sandals. I love it. I love it. Among the other things I love, I was going to share with you. It's pretty funny how David was talking about going to seeing the air show. And he's talking about the Air Force flying over the city in formation. And we don't see that here. Maybe it only happens in the big cities. I just don't ever recall seeing it. And what we look forward to here is our we have a whole like schedule of things to do here. 4:00 in the afternoon before Yom Ha'atzmaut, the day before, the whole yeshuv takes buses to the ancient Susia site, which is like half a kilometer away. All right. And then together we go on a walk to modern Susia. We just like walk. And there's this Arab village behind us. So we kind of like walk past the Arabs, and we have the army with us and everybody. And it's like a little hike. And this year we're going up to this hill where the Arabs have been, taking down our structures. We had a bench up there. We had water pumped up there. They took it all. They stole it all last week. And we built in the middle of the night a little house. And we're all going up there to plant trees after this walk. And then we're all walking back to the amphitheater, which every year the entire yeshuv goes to this amphitheater. And we lit like candles, memorial candles. There's 7 candles and 7 representatives lighting in memory of someone who has died either in battle, a soldier, or a victim of terror. And unfortunately, there's no shortage of those people. And then the entire yeshuv stands up and sings Hatikva, and then Ani Ma'amin. And then, now, as this is going on, the sun is going down. So then the sun's going down. And then the happy music starts. They play happy music, and the kids come out and do a dance or something. It's just awesome. Okay, it's just like flipping a switch from a whole day of sorrow and visiting the cemetery and crying and listening to stories. And I mean, even on TV, it's sad movies. To quickly, really, like the turn of a switch. I'm telling you, the sun goes down and it's like firecrackers and happiness, and not just happiness, but like the happiest day of the year. And then the whole yeshuv, watches these dances, and then the rabbi announces all the births that have occurred during the year and reads them off. And then we all go to the grass, and the men daven. There's special davening. And also, we go to the big grass. We put down our picnic blankets. Everyone runs home and brings their dinner, because we're all going to have a picnic together on the big grass. And that morning, stage has been set up on the big grass. I say the big grass, and it might sound funny to you, but we have one area of grass in my yeshuv, and it is called the big grass. In Hebrew, Hadesha Hagadol. And we all go there, and we don't fit. The yeshuv doesn't fit there anymore. So now this year they're dividing it into neighborhoods, but our neighborhood is actually going to be on that big grass, all 150 people. I guess it's about, 12 families or something. And there's a it's a stage they set up. They made a stage with planks and everything, and some kids will do some dances, and there'll probably be a projector, and they'll show a video. They interviewed me this year for the video, and they'll show the live performances from Jerusalem, which is always very exciting because they're like famous musicians that we've only heard on the radio. And then they'll do a game, a history quiz, and we all are divided into. It's just so great. It's like this old-fashioned, this old-style family picnic. That's kind of what it is. And it's dark, and it's cold, and it's nighttime, and we're freezing, and people have their sleeping bags, and the kids are falling asleep, and they have their pillows and their blankets. And after all that, which ends at like maybe, it starts at 8:30, it ends about 10:30. And I'm telling you, people bring food, and they also make food. So there's soup, and there's, chocolate souffle, and everybody has the hot water kettles out. So there's coffee, and there's tea, and it's great. It's just great. I'm making pizza. It's just great. But afterwards, in a tent, there's like this wedding hall, pseudo tent situation we have. All the teenagers and all the adults also go at like 11, and they sing songs all night long in this tent till like 3 a.m. And it's really just, I love it. I love it. It's so community. The community here is so strong. And I'm sure it's like that in all the yeshuvim. But in the ones that are far from the center, it's like that because so many people who live here are kind of like us. They don't have family here. They left from wherever they came from a city, from a bigger yeshuv. And they're here alone also. So the community really does become like a family. And I mention this sometimes, how the community leader, it's called the Rakezet Kehila. It's like the community organizer. That's a real job, with a salary. And it's full time. And it's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot of organizing community events here because the community depends on that. They depend on that, those events, the organization, the community is being together for all these events because there is no, you don't take the stuff for granted. That's what I mean. It takes work to do, and everybody chips in. I'm getting messages as I speak now about when do we bring the tables? When do we bring this? When do we bring that? And every year I get very excited, and I take pictures of flags. We all have flags. The community handed out flags that we're supposed to hang up on our doorposts and on our lawns and our fences. And everybody has flags on their cars. Everybody wears a white shirt today and black and a blue pants or a blue skirt. And it's just the way the kids are raised. And the kids become adults. And so it's just learned. It's like learned behavior. But I love it. It's so patriotic. I'm sure it's the way it was way back in America. But it's very exciting. And, my children are raised this way, and they'll remember this growing up. And wherever they go, if they start new communities themselves or if they stay here, I hope they carry on these traditions because they're wonderful. All my kids are home. My son came back from the army yesterday for the first time in his uniform. Very exciting. And my 2 boys came back from yeshiva, and we're all together through Shabbat. And this is our lives now. This is my life now. Always waiting for my kids to come home. And Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. Speaking with us today is Zezy Fuld. Zezy lives in Beit Shemesh. As many of you remember, he's been on the show a few times. He's been in Israel for over a year. This is not your first Yom Ha'atzmaut, right, Zezy?
No, it's actually been a part of many Yom Ha'atzmauts. As I told you, lived here in high school, so I've been here for many. Baruch Hashem.
Okay, well, since you made Aliyah, we're talking as an oleh. This is your second.
Yeah, as an oleh, there's a second. Yeah, the second one. Obviously, this one's different than the last one. As you remember, last one, we were all shut in our homes. So this is hopefully going to be a very different one than we had last year.
Yeah. You live in Beit Shemesh. I don't know what it's like there in the past, and neither do you, because you weren't there. Where I live, it was always a big deal, the whole yeshuv in one place. Now they're dividing us up into neighborhoods. Are they doing something like that in Beit Shemesh?
Yeah, it seems like everyone here is doing something else. It's I own an entertainment company. So we rent out moon bounces and cotton candy. I can't even tell you how many calls I'm getting for moon bounces and cotton candy.
Sure.
It's a festive.
Yeah.
It's a festive time. It really is a festive time. So many shuls are calling me because it's like just a chag here. It's just a holiday. People are. We have Hallel, which is where we're praying and we have just fun and excitement. It's really a holiday. So everyone's getting ready and everyone's preparing, everyone in their own way. Obviously, as you said, some people are still in Corona world. So they're still trying to figure out to do it in shifts or different in groups. But everyone is trying to do what they can to get everyone back to normalcy a little bit.
Yeah. So what have you been up to these past few months? I've seen that you have started a company, a chicken company.
Yeah,
Right?
it's interesting actually. My mom actually wrote a book called Letters from Planet Corona, and it goes through like different things that happen on Planet Corona, what things that happens over the year. And one of the things that she wrote about was like this interesting thing where some people like I feel terrible in Lo Aleinu. It's a really terrible thing. But some people, their businesses went through real hardships. A lot of millions of people around the world went through terrible hardships. But then there were certain people who just started businesses. You know, they figured out we're in crazy times and let's just figure out how to make it through. So, you know, I run a yeshiva, but I wasn't in yeshiva every single day. I wasn't in the school every single day. So I was trying to figure out another revenue source. And people were home and they weren't going out. So I was like, you know what? I know how to cook pretty well, and I make these things called chicken poppers. I call them zoppers because Zezy's poppers, and it came quite popular. Thank God. It took off. It's just a funny thing.
It's a funny thing, and people can't go out. That's the thing. People cannot. There was nowhere to go. Ordering in was an alternative, almost like going out, right?
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I'm like thinking back to the beginning of it, and like I remember like people like leaving a plastic Ziploc bag at the door for me to take the money, and me leaving it at the door. I didn't even see a customer for the first month or so till people like opened doors. But a lot of people just, you know, they were concerned. People would text me, "Hey, we're in Corona, so we can't actually accept it, but you just drop it at our door." It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah,
Definitely was weird.
Yeah. It was weird for everybody. So that's pretty interesting. We're doing they're doing a movie here. We do a video every year in our yeshuv, like to a song, and they lip sync and they get a studio and the kids dance. And this year they're doing a theme showing they call it the shefa, I guess almost like overflow is shefa, right? What has come, the bounty that has come out of Corona, and your business, what you just explained, is one of those stories. It is a story of bounty that has a good thing that has come out of the Corona. And there are other stories. They interviewed me because I run the Yad Shniya store, the secondhand clothing store. And we've done very well also because people have not been able to go shopping. So they've all come to us. You know, there are lots of, you're right. Awesome. It is awesome. It all goes to charity. It's very exciting to be part of something like that. But you're right. There are other things, you know, a lot of people have had to turn to their computers and they've learned these new skills, these online skills. A lot of people have been working remotely where once it was a thing you don't do. Now it's very popular and very accepted.
But it's so interesting. I actually just interviewed somebody for a principal job by me in my yeshiva, my high school. And I asked the guy, I said, what was the reason all of a sudden you just decided 2 months ago to make Aliyah this summer? I mean, that's pretty quick. He's like, I don't know. My wife and I kept discussing it. And like with Corona, like so many people were like, I'm working online. I don't need to actually be there. He has a business in America, and I don't really need to be there. So there's no reason not to move. I think it really was a big eye opener for the Aliyah movement. I really think it was a huge eye opener. So many people figured, I could telemarketing, telenursing, telemedicine. I mean, the world of tele is huge, and you could do many, many jobs far away from your desk. I know many lawyers that are now making Aliyah. I know an eye doctor who's made Aliyah, and I was like, what's the story? He's like, I go into America once a week. I don't need to see patients more than once a week. The rest of the time, it's sending them to doctors and different other things. It's really so interesting what happened over this Corona period.
Yeah, so that's one of the good things also. You can work from anywhere. It's not limited like it once was to a computer job, as you just said.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things I wanted to discuss with you, one of the things I wanted to ask you is is a little bit about the Corona. We just talked about all the niceties about Corona. People are moving to Israel because of Corona. But now that people are somewhat coming out of it, what is life going to be like? What is Yom Ha'atzmaut going to look like? And that's why I wanted to hear from you, how Yom Ha'atzmaut is going to look like in your yishuv, in your area.
I told you. I mean, we're having it divided. We've had the shul divided this past year. Every neighborhood has their own shul. So now every neighborhood is having their own Yom Ha'atzmaut, but it's organized by the yishuv. I mean, we all have groups. We have group leaders. We have a budget. We actually have to choose. Do we want to do falafel? Do we want to do hamburgers? Or do we want to do soup? We actually have to choose. And now we're deciding, where is it going to be? And is it going to be behind this guy's house or behind this guy's house? And is it, and who's going to make the chips? And who's going to use their chipser? And who's going to do the soup? So this is like what's going on.
How many people live in Zezy?
About 1,000, 1,200 maybe. They're 200,
so
almost 200
how big are the groups? How big
are the groups? There are probably 8 neighborhoods. And each neighborhood has, about 100 people, 150 people.
So they're splitting up into groups of 100 approximately.
Yeah, 10 families each, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, coming from where you came from in college and everything like that, what was when you heard about Yom Ha'atzmaut for the first time, now you're here for you understand your years and you understand that it's a holiday. What did you think of it the first time? What was do you think of it as it's a party? What did you think of it? What was it going to be?
When I was American? You mean?
Yeah, when you're American, you hear of Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel.
No, I did not.
It's Independence Day.
I never heard of it. I actually don't remember.
Never heard of it.
I never heard of it. When I was living in Philadelphia with my husband, we lived in Northeast Philadelphia in a religious neighborhood before moving to Israel. And then I heard of it, and I went to the downtown Philadelphia celebration once with him. And it was it was like kioskim and Israelis, and I thought it was nice, like a carnival.
Carnival, right?
But I had never heard of it, and I had never experienced it because I was not raised in a pro-Israel community.
Right, and because I often ask people this question. When you hear about Independence Day, you think of July 4th. July 4th weekend. You think about our independence, so you think about fireworks and you think about barbecues. But here, it's different because, as a Jew, I honestly feel like not only because it's ours, but it's also because it's so much closer. It's, as you said, 73 years. It's not hundreds of years ago. When you're talking about 70, 76, talking about 250 years ago, you feel a little maybe disconnected from it.
Right.
And you're like, hey, so we have a nice time. But here you feel so appreciative of the country. You feel so thankful for everything the country does for us. As we always talk about, there's always garbage, and there's always we could talk from today till whenever about the government and building a government, all that garbage, but you're still so appreciative of what you have and the home you're able to come to and the capability you have. And so Yom Ha'atzmaut means something totally different here. It's really something it's not different. Just a kiosk, and it's not just a party. It's appreciation day, appreciation.
Yeah, but it's it boggles my mind, when I went to that celebration. I think about it now. There are so many Israelis who live outside of Israel who left, and it's so sad for me. And I know it's hurts them because I think so many of them go with the intention of returning quickly. They go for adventure, but some of them really stay a long time, and it's their children don't speak Hebrew, and now they want to come back and they have to struggle with, getting back and integrating their kids. And it's so, it's got to be painful. I think it's got to be painful. It hurts me that I'm alone here and my parents don't know my kids and my sisters and brothers don't know my children at all. And they know them through Facebook. They really don't know my kids. And I grew up with my cousins every holiday together, singing songs. We have memories together. My kids don't have memories with their cousins, and my siblings don't have memories with us. And that kind of hurts me. But I'm willing to pay that price because I did it for a reason. The Israelis, what was their reason?
Yeah, I mean, it's a special kind of person that did what they did to be pioneers. People always ask me, like, you'd be great in a new community. I'm like, I'm just not that type of person. I'm not a pioneer. I don't. With you, like you've told me numerous times, there's 2 people that speak English in Zezy. I'm not that type of person. I'm not that type of pioneer.
No, you're doing. I'm nothing special. Really, this is not about me at all. People forget. There's one Jewish country. And, there's hardships here now with Corona and with the vaccine and all the fighting. And when people leave, I found out lots of Israelis have left. And it's like, why? Why are you leaving? Stay and fight. Stay and help. Right. You're just running away.
Is it better? Is it better anywhere else? Right.
Yeah, they think it is. They think it is. They want a quick fix. A lot of people today, they just want everything fast. Okay. So thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great celebration. We'll talk again soon. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.